Hello, everybody. You're listening to Westchester Talk Radio, which is produced by Shark Creative and made possible by our friends over at Entergy Indian Point Energy Center. Look, due to the circumstances and everything that's going on right now, we just thought it'd be a good idea to hear from our friends and our associates and people in the community about how they're really doing during isolation. I mean, these are, as we said, unprecedented times, calls for different kinds of measures, and a good friend of mine, Robert Cioffi from Progressive Computing, is certainly innovating, and he's pivoting with the times. And I checked out his LinkedIn page recently, and I noticed that he has a little Cioffi chat, which is clever, Robert, very clever. Not surprising at all, but very clever. And the whole point of that, I guess, is that you're looking to educate people on simple things that they can do while they're home in their work office. And I really loved some of your points, and I just thought it'd be a good idea to put a little spotlight on you to kick off what would truly be our episode 1 of isolation therapy on Westchester Talk Radio. So Robert, just let us know. So tell us what was behind this whole innovation. What got you thinking about Cioffi Chat, and then we'll dive right into the points that can help people.
Yeah, I appreciate the invitation and the honor of being on episode 1 here, by the way, Andrew. You certainly are an innovator in the community as well. I would actually use one of the points you just made about me, and I'm really humbled by the fact that you picked up on my personal brand has always been to try to educate those around me at the business council and in the business community. It's always actually been the way we've always just, I'll say, sell ourselves. It's really to sell the information and just provide the data to just put information out there, especially with technology, since it's very difficult for people to truly get their arms wrapped around everything. And now that it's just become such a big part of our lives. So the concept of Cioffi Chat was my mission last year was to, throughout 2019, was to just really get out in the LinkedIn community and capture all those random business thoughts, or just the maybe even off the wall ideas that I've had in a way that was presentable to my connections. And then this Cioffi Chat idea was just more of an extension of it. Why don't I just do it in a video? Why am I limiting myself to just those words when a picture or a video is worth even more than 1,000 words?
No doubt about it. And look, today's day and age, more and more people are going to be glued to their screens in some way, shape, or form. We know video's always been a powerful medium, and now digital being what it is, even more so. So why don't let's get right into it. Tell us what you posted, and how people can help themselves right now with working from home, because that's truly what you're doing. You're trying to help people with what they need to do to get set up for working at home, which is what most people are doing now.
Yeah. So. Yeah, for sure. I mean, our business went from this just everything was normal to one day about 2.5 weeks ago to this massive shift to getting all of our employees working from home. I mean, it started with Cuomo's first edict to get 50% and 75%, then 100%. I mean, it happened real fast. And so I just had this sort of flash in my mind that people are really unprepared to work from home. And so not only was I thinking about working from home for myself and for my own team, but I was also absorbing advice from the business community and my peers. And so I just decided to put this little presentation via video together, and I came up with those 6 ideas that I thought were the most impactful for remaining productive in the home office.
So what's idea number 1?
So idea number 1 was around preparing your workspace, and if you're going to participate from working from home, you've got to have a comfortable desk. You have to have enough space on your desk. You have to have enough lighting. You have to make sure that sound behind you, ambient noise. I mean, if you have pets, if you have children, and I've even now learned, some people have said even just a spouse or another adult in the home coming, walking behind you while you're on a video conference, can make for some odd situations.
There's been a lot of odd situations already that I've heard about. Especially we're using Zoom right now, and a lot of people are using Zoom. And there's some things that can go on that you're unaware of if you don't turn off the camera. I heard a story just this morning about somebody who had their camera on and someone came in kind of wearing their birthday suit, and it showed up with everybody else on the call. So those kinds of things can happen.
For sure.
Here I am. I'm actually in my home headquarters, which I work from here often. So my workspace has already kind of been set up, which is nice. But we did a few things also to kind of brighten up the backdrop and keep it clean and those kinds of things. And of course, you have your handy water or whatever it might be close by. But yeah, your point is well taken there. We have a dog that runs around the house. I have 2 young kids that run around the house, and they've come in here several times. So
unannounced,
actually, after you pointed out to me, watch my video, I thought about it, and I put a sign up on the door, on air.
Yeah.
So that they know, well, we're busy in here and you can't come in. Hopefully they won't prove me wrong during this little chat, but the doors are shut on both sides, and the sign.
We'll make the best of the situation in case somebody barges in.
And just for the purposes of the video, we're going to move it along. I want to keep these short and brief. And I know that we've got 5 more to cover. So what's point number 2?
Point number 2 is really testing your equipment. So you might have had a computer at home that you thought was usable for connecting to the office. Maybe it was fine for your home use, but now all of a sudden you're being tasked to do things like, working maybe in some software that you don't have installed on the computer, or maybe you're being asked to participate in a video call. I mean, who isn't on a video call these days? And so therefore your camera and your microphone, all of that stuff has to work. One of my daughters is doing distance learning from home. And, my wife told me one day when I came home, even us IT professionals have these problems, that it wasn't working. And sure enough, there was a problem with the camera and the microphone. Of all things, the cat chewed into the wire and created a short. And
wow.
You just don't realize these things until you actually go to use it. I was insisting everything was working, but it wasn't.
Right. And same thing, when you're out in the field, right? I'm sure our friends that are in the business that have on-site types of setups, you got to make sure all those things are ready to go. That's why people are there so early to test all these things, but you might not be thinking about that in your home office. So very, very good point. Thanks for sharing that. What's the point number 3?
So point 3 is about securing your home PC. And what I mean by this is, it belongs to you. For a lot of people, most people or many people don't have a corporate issued device. So in our case, we're protecting those corporate devices to make sure that they're compliant with, any regulations that we need to follow, or just even our own self-imposed, proper ways to maintain and secure systems with antivirus and making sure the machines are up to date and optimized. Now, all of a sudden, there's this rush to use home computers where all of those things may not be the case. Mm-hmm. What we are also seeing is that sometimes people are, out of desperation, doing things like copying data down to their local PC. And you have to be really careful about a lot of the regulation that's coming out about protecting people's information and identity. Most home computers are not as secured as a business computer, and now we're forcing everybody to use their home computer. We're opening up that
for business. Worms right now. Yeah.
And so the pressure for us is, make this work now, because I'm freaking out and I'm panicking, and we're doing our best to do that. But most people don't think about the security aspects of what we're doing as well.
Mm-hmm. What's point number 4?
So point number 4 is, I called it clean your keyboard because it sort of sounds phonetically well, but good. But, it's really cleaning all. Yeah, exactly, Andrew. What I'll say next is kind of disturbing, but there's a lot of information on the internet you can look up and proof that keyboards and mice are some of the dirtiest places in our both work and homes, even dirtier than toilet seats, which I know sounds disgusting, but believe it or not, toilet seats are actually pretty clean.
Yeah, they could be the cleanest things in the house because they get cleaned.
Well,
but what about your kitchen sink?
Used, and it's very obvious, but if you really look at your keyboard and look how nasty it looks, or screens or camera lenses and things like that. Basically, anything that you're touching on a very frequent basis should be wiped down, and it needs to be done appropriately, right? So do it with equipment that's powered off. Never spray liquids directly on electronics. Those sorts of tips and advice I gave in my video.
And I think you mentioned something about a Q-tip too. You use a Q-tip to go in.
Yeah, I mean, I love Q-tips and especially the little rounded, pointy toothpicks that you can really get into crevices. Isopropyl alcohol works very well. Don't overwet it. Just a little damp, and you can get all that crud out of the crevices. Good.
Well, that's good advice, and I'm sure that'll help a lot of people because they got to look down at it and realize we should be keeping it clean and safe anyway. So it's a good habit to get into. When you think about things that are frequently touched, that's part of we won't get into all of this now, but that's part of this whole problem, right? If you go,
it's like the hand washing thing, right? You're supposed to be doing this all the time.
Yeah. So if you're not washing your hands, you go to your keyboard, you're leaving impressions there from God knows how long. And that's really an important one of all the things, truthfully. That's a real, that has probably even more effect on everything else that's going on right now. You're going to the bank. I went to the grocery store yesterday, which was the first time I kind of got out of the house in a long time, but we needed to get groceries. And so I wore gloves, but when I got to the cash register, I realized that's obviously where many people are touching. And if they're not doing a good job cleaning that little keyboard off, you better make sure you have something protecting you, right? Because
exactly
where it is, kind of like that with the keyboard.
Yep, definitely.
All right, 2 more points, Robert. What have we got?
So the 5th one is on internet sharing. You got to realize that now everybody is sequestered at home. Kids, whether they're real small or doing distance learning, you've got potentially maybe two spouses in the home, maybe even some other adults. And what are we doing, right? We're all, even if it's a beautiful day, everybody's on the internet, everybody's streaming Netflix, everybody's trying to get on that Zoom call or using Microsoft Teams or getting on some cloud service or fill in the blanks. Everybody knows that you're so dependent upon that internet connection, but many home-based internet connections are getting clobbered by the amount of bandwidth demands that we're putting on them. Just earlier today, I was on a little thread between some IT professionals, and IT pros are starting to recognize that internet connections, even in some business areas, are suffering because of the volume of traffic on the internet right now is just skyrocketing. Everybody thinks of it as, I'll just turn on the faucet and the water will come, but not really quite the way the internet works.
Kind of like a supply and demand thing, right? In a way, right? Everybody's on.
In some ways, yes, right? Like really strong corporate connections in an office building, they'll suffer much less so, or maybe even negligible or unnoticeable effects. But the way home internet is delivered, it's more in a pooled or a shared area, a shared connection within a community, and then there's a statistical expectation of who's using it at certain times, and the systems are just not designed to take those sorts of loads. So that's both internally in the house with Wi-Fi as well as with your internet connection itself. You just may be overtaxing.
All right, Robert. Well, let's bring it home with the last point, the final 6th point of Cioffi Chat.
Yeah. So
how to prepare your workspace.
Last point is for Cioffi Chat is on culture, and I know that sounds weird coming from an IT geek like me, but we're super big on culture here. And what we started to pick up on immediately is this: one of our 4 core values here is team, and we really take that to heart. We actually really, really kind of like each other around here, and we enjoy the company. And I'm sort of a little bit of a class clown here, and I like to joke around with the team. That's another video. But maintaining that sense of culture, I think all of us kind of go through that feeling, that loss of isolation and disconnectedness from our teammates. So a couple of quick things that you can do. Have a morning check-in with your team. So if you're a large team, then break it down into like who are your direct reports or or invite some others along. If you're a smaller company, let's say, I mean, we had 30 people on a call last night from our team, just to sort of check in with each other. So you can manage different sizes. Above that number, it kind of gets a little unwieldy, but there's, we had a business council call the other day where we had 100 people.
Yeah, 100 people. It's great.
It can work. It can definitely work. Even just if you're sitting there listening, hearing other people's voices.
Sure.
Part two to that, and there's, variations of these ideas, and this is what we did last night, was to have a virtual happy hour. So it was like 5:30, everybody jumped on. We pointed the camera at our kids and our pets and our house plants and our whatevers, right? Our little mechanical cats or our little Lego toys that we play with, or, keep it light, keep it goofy. Yeah. Some people crack a beer open or pour a glass of wine. That's cool. Because we're all sitting at home anyway.
Hey, look,
it's almost like going out to the bar after work just to grab a drink before heading home. So
I think it's one of the better silver linings with this whole situation is having those virtual gatherings of sorts. I'll be honest, today I have a few different ones lined up. One of them is with my son's class that we did last week at 3:00 on Friday, and they're asking, are we doing it again? So we're going to have a show and tell for all the kids. I also did a virtual happy hour with my college friends. I don't think, they were kind of mocking me about doing that, to going into Zoom. And now, last night, I got a couple of pings. When are we going into the Zoom room? So it's getting us together more frequently and in a different environment, but it has its place. I will never say it's going to replace that warm embrace and the hug of being with somebody. I look forward to getting back to that. But it is kind of nice to have this in the interim, and I think people are going to start doing it more and more. So listen, Robert, thank you.
It's really important, right? See, it facilitates stuff like this.
Yeah, there you go. But Robert, look, thank you so much for joining us today. Once again, you're listening to Westchester Talk Radio, produced by Shark Creative, made possible by Entergy Indian Point Energy Center. And thank you so much, Entergy, for all you do. Robert, loved the Cioffi chat. Love what you're doing. Keep up the good work. Keep up the spirit. And we'll have you back soon.
Thank you, my friend.